at some point you also had, could we call it a side hustle, a separate entrepreneurial venture that you were working on as well?
Correct, yeah. And that was, I'd been working in the background, just using a lot of the skills that had been built at Fanshawe. Um, I wanted to hone those skills. I wasn't doing them day to day inside of cows. I wanted to hone those skills. I have an entrepreneurial nature, I would say. Like I love the idea of building business and growing business. And I was doing actually quite a bit of that inside of Group M, despite the fact that I was early in my career and it was a massive global company. Um, but yeah, I had started, with my now one of my partners, Nick. We, were interested in Meta had just started rolling out ads. We had a little bit of experience in website design and development. Not a lot, excuse me, but enough to be dangerous.
Mm,
Um,
good way of
and so
putting it.
we started started a little company in the background, or we had been working on since we were back in London, and yeah, that ended up being morphing into what we are today. Actually,
So that really planted the seeds for other.
yeah, totally, totally. It was just a small thing back then, but we made a decision at some point. We're young people, and in a um, in a pretty opportune time, like we should either, stop doing this stuff in the background or because it's taking up all of our free time, or we should go all in on it. And so that was 10 years ago and we've gone all in on it and it's been I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it, but it's been quite the ride so far.
Was there a lot of convincing that had to happen between the co-founders to just go all in? Because that is a pretty big step. Like I imagine you had to have a conversation with, was she your wife at the time, still a fiance, girlfriend, and just let her know that like this is the career shift that I'm going to make. And there might be a bit of short-term pain. A lot of entrepreneurs feel that at the beginning, but there's going to be a massive long-term gain, sorry, if this pans out the way we want it to.
Yeah, the notion was always, and I still love this, was that the risk is high, but the stakes are low when you're young.
Uh,
So it's like the risk of failing is high, like, and the chances that you're going to fail are high. But for us at that time, it was the stakes are low. We, didn't have any children, weren't married, didn't have, other than rent, there wasn't really, much else that needed to be taken care of. And so, all of the credit to Nick, who was, the certainly more forceful about it, but that was the notion at that time was if not now, then when? Because there isn't a better time to do it than now. So we came together, and that's when our third partner, Cap, got involved, and um, we got it started. It wasn't a huge consideration. If I think back to that time now, it was yeah, this is the right thing to do. Let's do it.
and why the name Other? And we've got to say that Other is spelt with a period at the end.
Yes. Why the name Other? So we found um, in our time in the industry, whether it was the stuff that we were doing ourselves or things that we would hear from clients throughout the agency work that we were doing, that um, the level of dissatisfaction among clients was often fairly high. And not every client. There were lots of clients that were very happy, but there were many that were dissatisfied with what they were getting. And then there's a secondary notion, which was all agencies are the same. And I think it still exists in some capacity. We still hear it, I would say, fairly frequently. And so our response to that was, well, people are dissatisfied and they're just going down the list of like, oh, this agency is the same as this agency, as this agency, as this agency. If only there was an other option that we could go to
Mm.
that did things a little bit differently, then, wouldn't that be a fantastic thing for us and for the market? And so we started out at the beginning, saying, what are the things that we are going to do and we're not going to do that are going to make us other? And, I'm really proud 10 and a half years later that those things that we decided to do at the beginning of the business are still the way that we do business today. There's been no change. And I do feel like that genuinely makes us other. So that's the story, the explanation of the name. But we really wanted to put some substance behind it. And I feel like we've delivered on that the last 10 years.
You just mentioned that, I guess at a high level, you guys have kept things pretty consistent the last 10 years, but what really, like, what have been the big changes though from say day one, 10 years ago to today?
I think there's a couple of different angles I could take there. The entrepreneurial angle is at the beginning you're responsible for all of the work. So you come in and you bring on a new client or you start a new relationship and all of the work is yours, which is great in a sense that your ability to control the output and control the quality and control the delivery of that work is 100%. It's all on you. But it's obviously, the downside is your capacity is limited. And so you can only bring in as much business and as much growth as you can actually service. Um, and then, you start to go through this transition of bringing on your first team member. And now, you're giving up a little bit of that control in the work, but you're getting time back that you can do other things in exchange. And so this is a 10-year transition. We're a team of about 50 now. And so it's just been these small exchanges of, okay, we bring capable hands on board, give them the resources, the methodology that they need to be successful. And then that will get us a little bit of time so that we can start thinking about, or we can continue to think about what's the next challenge on the horizon. So the entrepreneurial one is really that transition from being in the work, doing the work, to getting out of the work and being focused on the business and the development of the business and staying competitive. And then, I mean, you've been running the podcast here for a long time. Like the changes in the industry are innumerable.
Mm.
It's not even close to the space that it was 10 years ago when we think about the external factors that we've dealt with.